I'd like to share my morning routine with you. It actually starts the night before when I soak some brown rice. There's about 2 handfuls in there. I took the water out earlier. So 1 handful is for breakfast, a sweet meal. Lunch is a savoury meal. What I do though is I cook it all in the morning. The reason I do that is I use half as much energy. And the reason why I use handfuls rather than cupfuls is because it's good to be in touch with the food that you're eating. It sort of enhances the experience, gives you an appreciation for nature and the food that you're eating. It's good to have that relationship. Of course it's better to grow it as well, but I don't have that luxury at the moment. So in preparation for this, I boil 3 of these sized cups. 2 is for the rice and 1 cup is for my morning cup of generally cocoa, which is tasty and really good for you. Obviously it's good to cover the pot so you don't lose heat. Once I've made my cuppa, what I normally do is I fill up my flask here so I know exactly how much I'm boiling. You don't want to boil a whole kettle when you need less than that amount of water. So I boil the exact amount that I need. What I do with that is I fill up my flask so that throughout the day I generally don't have to use the kettle again. Okay, so there's no need for that to really bubble away. We know that that's now 100 degrees, it's boiling. It gets a bit of sun in the day, so it takes longer to lose its heat. Okay, so that rice is now bubbling away nicely already, and it's only been nearly 8 minutes. Whereas if you can imagine putting in cold water and boiling that from scratch, that would take longer. Unless of course you pumped up the gas. But I started low because I started with boiling water. Okay, there we go. You can see how low that is. And you'll see next to my flask there I've got something else. I've got another flask. This is a food flask you'll be familiar with. Stainless steel. It's really tough. See, because I soaked the rice, it's already soft, so it doesn't need to cook so much. So what I'll do is leave that going for another 5 or 6 minutes. I'll make my breakfast and then I'll put the rest in here with some of the hot water, and that'll keep cooking and softening throughout the day. So that's another way of saving energy and saving time, so that later I've got this rice ready to go, and then I'll show you what kind of meal I'll make later. Okay, so 10 minutes later, it's time to turn off the rice, and you'll see shortly why it doesn't need to be too soft for the way that I eat the rice for breakfast. So I cooked it for 20 minutes. I'm only just starting this routine. I'm probably going to take it down to 15 and see how it goes. The experimentation in itself is good fun. I really enjoy it. So what I'll probably do is put some of the hot water, some of the rice in my food flask. You'll notice there was a bit of a noodle in there because I store rice noodles sometimes in the same container and they get a bit mixed up. You'll see it's all experimentation really, and after a while you come to perfect your system, if you want to call it that. So I've now got one handful of rice in there and most of the water. So last night I also soaked some nuts. I'll just get rid of that cold water. And I like to use one of these milkshake cups. Okay, rice goes in there as well. So what I like for breakfast is mushed rice. It's very similar in consistency to porridge, I guess. So you'll see the nut milk. The nuts are already forming a milk. It's very nice. How much you choose to blend it up is entirely up to you. What do you add to it? I'll start with a bit of sugar. While I was blending it, I had an interesting new idea. Here I've got pre-mixed cardamom and cloves. Olive oil actually goes great. You may not have considered that. And olive oil is a really good essential fatty acid which our brains really need. Raisins. So different textures. I met a chef years ago who said one of the best things you can do for a meal is have a variety of textures and a variety of flavours within the meal. So I just put in sesame seeds as well, tablespoon. Coconut. Cocoa is full of minerals and vitamins which we don't get in a lot of our foods. My mouth is watering already, my stomach rumbling, I can't wait. So let's see if you can get an idea of the consistency. So you can see all the nuts and the seeds. It gets thicker now. Okay, there's more than I can eat there, but that's alright. I'm thinking I'll put a bit more olive oil in. So this recipe doesn't need dairy. You get all the creaminess that we seek often in our foods or our beverages from the nuts. Okay. Yum. There's a little bit of sweetness from the sugar, but most of the sweetness comes from the raisins. Still, I think it needs more sugar. Alright, so there's my breakfast. And later, I'll come back and make a lunch. Alright, thank you for listening. Okay, lunchtime. So I like to end my lunch meal with some spinach, baby spinach. Kind of cleanses the palate. With some balsamic vinegar, also helps to cleanse the palate, and ends the meal with a sour taste which continues the salivation, and the salivation aids in digestion. Bit of salt as well also helps salivation. It's all good. I've got capers in vinegar, yum. Olives, the stuffed olives. So Here's the rice. Still very warm. I wouldn't say it's hot, but it's warm. So I like to add some lemon pepper. Very mouth-watering. Kind of spicy. I put olive oil into pretty much everything I eat. A few more capers. Mix that in. A bit more salt. My body type, according to Ayurveda, is Vata, V-A-T-A, and we are supposed to have more salty and sour flavours than the other body types. So I've already got some live food in there, which is the spinach, and some mung bean sprouts, which are also very live, being sprouted. They're alive and growing. Good for enzymes. Sprouts are great for enzymes. Now what I forgot for breakfast was I like to put ginger in everything as well. Ginger aids in digestion, the heat. So that's fresh ginger. I also like to sometimes chew on glazed ginger, which is very effective as well. Okay, so I'll put a bit more balsamic vinegar just to get the digestion happening and the salivation, and it's mouth-watering just thinking about it. Alright, well thank you for listening, and I look forward to bringing more videos in the future. Bon appetit. Okay, so it's now 2 o'clock, so that's 6 hours after I first started filming this. So I'm going to see how hot this water is. So that's, what, 72 degrees. So that's easily hot enough for a hot cup of whatever. I'm going for another cocoa. And the honey is from Bartholomew's Meadery, Coastal Peppermint. It's the sweetest honey I've ever tasted. Yep, good temperature. Perfect.